Hello, everybody. Welcome to Divorce Not Divided. I'm Nathan Burkhart.
And I'm Meg Phillips. And today we're going to talk about really like consistency with kids' schedules, but we'll start first with a story.
Sure.
So something that I don't think Holden needs it because he doesn't care or carry it around like Lottie does. But I started realizing that Lottie like consistently would be like, whose house am I at tomorrow? Whose house am I at the next day? Whose house am I at? And I started realizing like for Lottie, like to her, it really matters to know exactly where she's going to be and when. Right. And then I was reading, it was either an article or probably just like Instagram doom scrolling or something, but it talked about how, sometimes an extra stressor on a kid in a divorced in a divorced family is they don't always know where they are that night.
Sure.
So they might be thinking like that might just be an extra stressor. And so I thought, well, it must be for Lottie because she's always like, where am I going to be? So I'm a speech language pathologist and I love making visuals for students. So I was like, oh, a visual schedule for Lottie would be great. So I printed off the schedule and I just printed off like a blank February calendar. I have to do this for March, actually. She's been asking for it. And I put pink hearts on my day and put mom, and then I put dad with a blue star and then laminated it. And she's been carrying it with her.
Yeah, she just really wants to know where she's going to be every single day. And she's very organized. It's funny, I think the thing that I've learned from this is that when you go through a divorce or a breakup when kids are involved, your kids aren't just going to respond the same way.
Right.
They're two different people. And our son he's a lot more disorganized. We can just put it nicely that way. He doesn't really care where he ends up as long as he's at a place that loves him at the end of the day. But Lottie very much wants to know how her day is going to go. Not only her day, her week.
Yeah.
And like she'll ask me often, am I at your house for 3 days and then I'm with mom for 2 days? Like she wants to know how this is all gonna go.
So now it's less of those questions, and I actually think like she seems like a little bit more.
No, it's funny. She carries this calendar around at my house. I didn't even know it was like this mythical animal that we all made up that Meg told me existed, but I never saw it. And then one day she's carrying it around. I go, "What's this?" I thought it was Dilly Bar Day, and. Nice call back.
Call back to Dilly Bar.
I was like, wow, Meg's laminating the Dilly Bar sheets, so I don't throw them away now.
I should.
But anyway, and I was like, what do you got there? And it was a calendar. And then the next thing I thought of, it's Seuss Day Dr. Seuss Day coming up. No, I'm just going on them. But I looked at it, and she carries that around, and she puts little X's on the days after they go.
I told her she can use any marker because it's going to be disposed of anyways. It's not going to be the same calendar every.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like when we look at how this has affected our kids, it's really important to know and take time with each of them to let them process however they need to process. Because like, even though they were 4 and 6 when we got our divorce, they were used to coming home to the same place every single day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons I do get defensive sometimes when I hear things about divorce and how you should have worked on your marriage more. Mm-hmm. And that, because we very much did. Divorce was a last option for us, right? We wanted our kids to be in the same place with us every single day. Mm-hmm. And making sure that we figured out and explored any way possible to be able to do that for them so they wouldn't have to be in a situation where they were living in multiple places was explored. But unfortunately, we couldn't get there. So I think one of the things that we continue to do, though, through processes like this, is say just because the divorce happened doesn't mean that we have to ever stop exploring ways to help them, right? Like the collaboration should have happened during the marriage. Yeah, we tried to make that work during the marriage.
It's just really hard to collaborate on the issue of my sexuality.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not going to happen.
Well, and the thing is that you have to understand that once you have the divorce happen, if you have 50-50 placement of your kids and custody of your kids, the collaboration can still be worked on for the
Right.
kids' sake.
Absolutely.
You're not like necessarily collaborating with the other person to figure out how you can patch your marriage together anymore, because you've both recognized that it wasn't going to work anymore, and it was breakable beyond repair. But
Yeah.
your kids' relationship with you is not.
Right.
And so the collaboration that we talk about in these podcasts, and with using things like a calendar that Lottie can bring home with her, or understanding that Holden is just going to do his own thing every single day. And
Holden
how do we
just
deal
needs
with that?
a giant like tote bag that he can take his action figures
Right.
from one home to the next, because we also don't think that because you're with mom doesn't mean you don't get certain toys. Like, they
Right.
should be able to have the comfort of the toys that they love. So we just recognized, okay, there's gonna be a tote bag. There's gonna be always, guys, there's a blankie and there's a bear, and Holden has a bear, Lottie has a blankie, and they don't sleep without those. And so those go back and forth. And, you know, there's been nights where we've had to be like at 9 p.m. or like 8 or 9 p.m. be like, hey, you got bear at your house, don't you? And it's like, dang it. We forgot to switch them. But yeah, so that's our story for
That's
kids.
story, and it's going to transition really well into what we're talking about
Right.
today. So the two kind of blend together. There's a reason we saved the calendar topic for this, because what we're talking about today kind of fits really well with it, right?
So when we first realized this was happening, or like we were taking the steps, or I was taking the steps, and then eventually, you know, you hopped on board and we were like, let's collaborate during this.
Yeah.
It was trying to figure out the kids' schedule was hard, because kind of going back to Nate wanting to be a dad his whole life. And I was also distraught thinking that I wasn't going to have the kids every day. We really wanted that 50-50 time even before we had the divorce. We were like, we want equal time with the kids.
Yeah.
And did we start out with
So we started out with we've had 3 different schedules. So essentially the first schedule was that I would always get them on the weekdays, and then you would get them on the weekends. And
I forgot about that.
It was
horrible.
the worst one. Don't recommend it.
Don't do that.
So essentially what would happen is that I would get them all during the week, because during the week I had access to my parents who could watch them, and I had a little bit more flexibility. I have a job that has a lot of weekend events. And so Megan's life was a lot more open on the weekends, because she was more of a traditional 9 to 5. And so we started this thing where I always had my weekends available, and I'd watch them for essentially 4 days a week. And then Meg would get them for like the weekends.
Didn't I randomly have like a Wednesday here and there so that we made it even? Like
it wasn't a good schedule.
Oh, it was horrible.
It was a realization within the first probably month.
I think I called you crying too, because you had your whole day free.
Yeah.
And and the nights and the weekend and
we put no research into figuring out what a child schedule should be for parents that were separated. And so right away we knew that didn't work. And so I think you went and did some research on some other options, and
3-2-3.
We went to this like one called 3-2-3, which was the first one that came up. And the 3-2-3, essentially what that does is one parent has them 3 days, then the other parent has them 2, and then the other parent has them 3, and then the other parent has them 2, and it just kind of alternates like that. And it just so happens that it's pretty much like every other weekend, but the days always are kind of mixing up.
Yeah.
And the big problem with that one was that the kids just had no idea.
But neither did we, honestly, too. Well, we did, but the kids had no idea when they were going to be. And making a schedule it made it really hard too, because you and I realized we needed consistent days, certain days that worked better about not having them.
Yeah.
And it was never consistent with a 3-2-3, because Sometimes I'd have them Monday, Tuesday. Sometimes you'd have them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And sometimes I'd have them Saturday, Sunday.
I was just so lost. I was like, what's going on here? And it's like, what did I have them for 2 or 3 days? I was just, I don't know. It wasn't, I didn't like that method either. And so what we've settled on now, which we like a lot.
It's a modified 2-3-2.
Yeah. It's like, it will happen is I always have them 2 days of the week. Megan always has them 2 days of the week. And then we alternate every other Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep.
So essentially it's like 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, 2-5.
Yep.
I just said those numbers. I don't even know. You might be like writing them down and being like, that makes no sense at all. But anyway, so essentially I know I always am going to consistently have them 2 days of the week. Megan's going to have them the other 2.
Yep.
And then we alternate every other Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
We've liked this one.
Yep.
Because a couple of reasons. One, I always know the same 2 days of the week that I don't have my kids. And so if I've got hobbies or things like that I do during the week, I know that those are the 2 days I can concentrate on so I can maximize my time with my kids.
Right. I also find it now what's been a bit of an adjustment is because of the way that's set up is some of those, like when you have your consistent 2 days, if the weekend falls, like you're going to have them for 5 days straight.
So by day 4 or 5, you want to pull your hair out. For full transparency. I love my kids, but by day 5 of
when
being
you're
a
full-time parent,
I have so much respect for parents that are
single
the
parents
only
that are,
one. Like that's hard. I'm day 5 and I'm like, man, I need something. I need like a phone a friend. I need a lifeline, please. I'm always mad at Megan. I'm like, you left them with me for 5 days. And she's like, every other week I have them for 5 days. I was like, no, but you did this to me this time.
This is on purpose.
Leave me alone.
This is vendetta.
You're terrible.
Like, you drop, like when we drop the kids off the next, like after having them for 5 days, we're like, bye, kids, love you, and we make them run.
Yeah. Well, at first I thought I was like, maybe I just don't love my kids enough by day 5. But then Megan was like, it's day 5. I was like, oh, good. Yeah. Now you know how I feel.
And I'm like, I've been feeling it the whole time.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's lots of anger that can come out of the day 5 sometimes. But that's just having to you're the single parent and you're just taking care of them all the time and you're dealing with temper tantrums and all that, and you're trying to deal with them by yourself.
Remember when you did a makeup day and had them for 6 days? But I even told you, okay, guys, this is a funny story. I was like, he's like, I owe you a day. And I was like, okay, here are some options for you so that it won't be a 6-day situation where it would be like a 3-day and then back, and then a 1, and then they'd be back with you. And Nate's like, nope, this day works better for me. And I'm like, that's 6 days. Are you okay with that? And you were like, yeah, I'm fine. He was not fine. Yeah, were you fine, Nate?
I was not ready for that.
I warned you. You remember the warning.
Oh, I know. I was sitting there, I was like, it's great. It's going to be cool. But, I mean, okay, so the one great
Let's clarify.
Yeah.
We love our kids.
Yeah. Just not on day 5. I'm totally kidding. I love my kids every day. It's just sometimes it's hard, right? And I think any parent, we laugh and jest. We laugh and jest. We laugh and jest, yes, right? Yeah. Because we do love our kids very much. I do think it's important that people understand that parenting is hard. Mm-hmm. Anyone that pretends like it's daisies and morning glories and rainbows and sunshine every single day you have your kid, they're lying to you. It's an honor. And I love being a dad every single day, but I also am learning how to be a dad at the same time, and you're learning how to be a mom.
Oh my gosh. Which is also like, bouncing back to boundaries a little bit. I still think you and I have a pretty open line of communication if we're struggle busing with a parenting moment.
Sure.
If that person's available. So I can't count on Nate to be free to talk in that moment. But like if I text, usually I'll text first and be like, I'm really struggling with something. And you're like, okay, give me a call. You don't do that a lot to me. Are they just better with you?
No, I just try to deal with it.
Okay. Well, do they not have the same?
No, it's just, I understand that like, there's going to be times that I'm going to have to deal with it. And there's like, for me, I would take a big, deep breath and I just kind of get through it.
Cause I usually do, but then I've just had some doozies lately, some tantrums that I just haven't come across lately.
Not to change the subject, but like I think for me, it's very much that you can be frustrated with someone and still love them.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about like abusing the kids or anything like that either. It's just like, but if you become like frustrated with something because your kid decided to talk back or had a tantrum in a store, that's a very real feeling. And to ignore your frustration or anger because you feel like that you're a bad parent if you aren't happy around your kids all the time is denying yourself, in my opinion, of very important feelings and emotions that you have to experience.
Well, it's kind of like Inside Out. You're supposed to have anger.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have envy. You're supposed to have all these emotions. They serve a purpose. And this recommendation of Dr. Becky Kennedy wrote a book called Good Inside. And it's all about, I think they kind of talk about internal family systems. IFS, internal family systems, how you each have your own like little internal family system inside your own being, and that each emotion is actually incredibly valuable for your mental health. To have them, acknowledge them. That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Acknowledge when anger comes up. But there's a difference between acting on the anger in a way that's dangerous or unhealthy, and there's a different way of like being like, ooh, anger is up. What's it trying to like? What is it? How's it trying to serve me? Yeah. And is it coming up in a way that isn't serving me? And how can I work through that? Right. And how do I process this healthily? And that's why I think it's important to acknowledge your emotions. Like, I'm really frustrated with you guys right now. I've told you 3 times this and this and this, and now I'm getting frustrated because then they know it's safe to tell us their emotions. Anyways, that's a whole giant dive into that, but I love that particular.
Right. Yeah. I think the one thing that we do try to do is make sure that if we are frustrated or we had a frustrating couple days with the kids, that the other parent knows, and that like if Megan comes to me and said, I've had a really frustrating last couple days with them, making sure that she understands that that's a healthy thing to be able to tell me, opposed to being there and saying like, well, I'm never frustrated with them. I guess I'm just a better dad. Right. Or like making her feel like she's a bad mom because there are frustrations that come up. Right. And it's just like, I think it's just a really real thing to understand that sometimes we go through very tough spots with our kids, and we'll go through this in a whole different way when they become teenagers. Right. And I don't know what type of teenagers they're going to be, but I do know that as kids grow up, they go through other life experiences and things happen to them, and you have to be able to navigate all of that. But being able to create consistency with them gives them this platform and ability to understand that their feelings are going to be looked at as valuable at both mom and dad's house, because mom and dad both value sharing feelings and emotions.
Right. And that was a nice little pivot back onto the topic.
Yeah, I was trying to get us back on topic.
I heard you. I heard you. That was good. Like you got us, because we veered off into emotions instead of schedules.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about our recent scheduling debacle.
Sure.
Yeah. So every morning that it's a school day. So for 9 out of 12 months, there's school, right? And Nate has the capacity to take them to school because of his job hours, and I do not. So I drop them off at Nate's, and he has a certain like 30 minutes of time with the kids before he takes them to school. And then on certain days, he also picks them up.
Right.
Or we get support from your family.
Yep.
To pick them up. And so that pivots to where in the summer I don't work in the summer because my job, I work in the school district, so I don't have work in the summer. And just recently, like I started diving into hours and saying, hey, I don't think these line up perfectly for the amount of time that you've been supporting me, because you do support me by doing this. And then I was like, so can we like talk about like me having a day, because me putting all my hours in at one time overwhelms me. And I do have the kids for almost 5 days straight every, even if it's his day, they'd be with me.
So you're looking at like two different types of stresses, right? So you're looking at one type of stress that I experience that's very different from what you experience, right? So the stress that I go through is having to, like, because sometimes I have meetings in the morning that I can't go to, or I have to be virtual until I get him to school, or we have to move them all around. And there's sometimes where leaving work early in order to pick them up on a few days isn't ideal. But what you're looking at is stresses and figuring out how you can be there to support and be there for your kids over a 9-month period, which is more of like, it's a lot of like little stresses, right? And opposed to a 3-month period when you're watching them continuously. So it's a shorter period, but it's more hours. And so we can't really relate to the stresses that each other go through.
Right.
Because I've never had to do a thing where I'm watching them continuously for 8 hours a day for a 3-month period during the week, right? For a 3-month period. And you, at the same time, you've never had to go through a thing where your whole work schedule and life schedule had to operate around if you're going to be picking the kids up or dropping them off in school in the morning. In a typical nuclear household, you've set up a consistent thing where that parent can always pick them up. If we were still married, what we would say is, oh yeah, of course you're going to watch them during the summertime and I'll come home. And of course I'm just going to take care of that.
But the difference is you'd be coming home in the afternoon and there'd be two, that's always the thing about as a nuclear is that it relieves stress from one parent when they're in the home together, because now the dynamic, the kids can go to two people. There's two people to go to for attention and support.
So it's not ideal at all. And it's like to be able to navigate this. But I think where you got into is you were diving into the hours and they were just a little off. And essentially where they've gotten off over time is based on schedule changes and life changes and figuring out that Megan used to be in the same school district as the kids were in. So their school breaks were always the same.
Yeah, they are this year though.
Yeah, this year they happen to be the same, but
that's
like
lucky.
Now she's not in the same district. So there are things like spring break.
They're the same this time.
Yeah, they line up this time, but not
they
always.
Didn't, not the last 2 years, nope.
Or you're in a school district, for example, that likes to call a lot of snow days because of busing. And where we live, we don't have that as often. So there's days there, like you're off, but they have school.
Yeah.
Or
those ones are easy to figure out though.
But we kind of had to figure it out. And I think that there was the argument that we had gotten into was based on us having different types of stresses happening in our life and not being able to fully relate. So when you came to me and you're like, hey, the hours aren't lining up, I know I got defensive right away. And I was like, I didn't feel appreciated because I felt like I moved so many meetings around during the year and I tried to figure out how I'm going to get them to school. And if one of them gets sick, I have to be the one to take off to go get them. But
that hasn't been the case this year.
No, but at the when we had gotten to that moment, I had felt like when you go 9 months straight of changing your schedule and stuff like that and feeling like that you're the one that's responsible for figuring out how to pick them up and take them to school, it gets frustrating to hear that I owe hours when it's on a grid or in an Excel sheet, right? When you're actually looking at it. But at the same time, what I'm not doing to try to take some accountability, and I know I'm talking a lot here, just go with me, but is that I don't know what it's like to have to watch them and essentially be childcare for summer for me. I don't know.
And it was just me trying to say, hey, if their number of hours aren't lining up, because I think it was like, 106 for you. And then if we added some other hours, it still would have fallen short at 160. So that's 40 hours that I was expected to cover that didn't match up with what was going on.
Sure.
Right. And so I think I just said, hey, I just need one day off in the middle of the week. And you usually do take your Wednesdays, but the problem is because we were in that other schedule last year, I only got every other Wednesday. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying I needed a consistent day where I don't lose my mind during the summer, because I'll have my weekends no matter what, my every other weekend, but that's every other weekend. And I was like, I need one day in the middle of the week that I won't implode.
You're all probably really lost right now, being like 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 1. Like, are they divorced or are they playing football? And
I don't know how to play football either.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I'm glad that if you're confused, I'm glad you are, because it's confusing, right? And, like, the thing is, I think that I want to say is, like, this all sucks. Like, this isn't fun to figure out, and it's, like, sitting there and, like, going through all of this. This is hard. It's not ideal.
But we do it because we want consistency for the kids.
Yeah.
And we try to do it so that we have not just consistency for the kids in their schedule, but consistency of, like, if we continue to collaborate and not bite each other's heads off and try to think about someone else's situation, then the kids are going to have consistency of parents who aren't going to pass each other off when we do hand each other off, yelling at each other or not talking.
Sure. And we didn't yell at each other. When we say an argument, it was just a talk.
It was phone calls, and it's not in front of them.
And I think it was funny. I think it's worth mentioning this too. I had a really rough day the day that you brought this up. And so you were talking to me, and I had said, you know what? I've had a really tough day. Mm-hmm. My brain is not in the capacity to be able to talk about this right now. And you gave me that space. Yeah. You're like, okay, I get it. And I think that this is maybe something to, like, think about too for people that are, like, in a relationship still or in a marriage still. If somebody asks for a beat or a moment because they've had a tough day, they might be doing that because they actually really care about you.
Yes.
And they don't want to, like, pop off or unload or take things out on you because your day sucked.
And I think I had, because I have even said, I think you're not in a great space, but I have to at least plant this seed because summer's coming up.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to bring this up to him in the end of May, right before summer started, and then him be like, wait, what's going on? I wanted to make sure that there was time to process all of it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you take 2 weeks to not talk to somebody or even a week. I'm saying you take a couple hours.
Yeah, you told me, and I pivoted the conversation, I ended it, and I hung up.
Yeah. And I think, like, one of the things that I've learned through this, because I've been learning a lot about myself over the last few years, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I go back to that parenting class that we had back in the day where they're like, if you're frustrated with your kids, it's okay to walk away and give yourself a beat for a moment before you do something stupid, right? Yeah. And so
he's using an acting term, just so you know.
Oh, beat? Yeah. So essentially, a beat is an acting term where it's like a moment where there's a shift change. And I think that it's a very grown-up thing to understand that this might not be the right time for this type of conversation. But I think what has helped me out is in the beginning when I first started exploring this, it's like there was no real actual time that was set of, like, okay, we don't have to talk about it now, but when are we going to come back to it?
Right.
Because what that can do to the other person, and I think this is just general relationship advice, not for just co-parenting.
It can put the other person in a very stressful moment because
they become anxious.
Because if I need to talk about it, I'm happy to give Nate space to think, but if he doesn't come, I'm going to be like, when, because I'm going to start ruminating and cyclical thinking and freaking out and having anxiety that you're avoiding. I feel like it's avoidance.
Right.
And I have anxiety over it, but
it is like, and that's where if we were going to get into, like, the relationship types, just for people that don't understand, there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm not a relationship expert by any means besides
Nate dates.
Yeah, Nate dates. Yeah. But, like,
he can take himself out real well.
There's, like, a secure attachment style, an anxious attachment style, avoidant attachment style. There's anxious avoidant. There's a bunch of these different things. And again, I'm not an expert on it, but I know how when I'm regulated, I'm secure. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's where I like to be most of the time. But
most people do.
I acknowledge, and a lot of this was honestly because of the divorce, right? I acknowledge 100% that when people do avoidant things, like ignore me for a period of time, I become anxious.
Right.
So you're more prone to get multiple text messages from me, right? You're going to have me ask things like, did I do something wrong? Did I piss you off? And then I start apologizing for things. And
before
then
they even respond.
Yeah. And so I fall into this anxious style, and I've been really working on it. I'm trying to acknowledge when I do it and understand that that's sometimes I just have to take a big deep breath, or I have to have hobbies where I go away and not think about it. But like for me, what I've learned in situations like this, if I say to you, hey, look, I've had a really rough day. I really don't want to get caught into this like nickel and diming hours thing, because that's how it felt to me at the time, because I was just pissed off, right? Not at you, at the day, right? And it was like, can we revisit this on Thursday? Or I think it was Thursday, so never mind. But I see you on Saturday. Can we sit down for 15 minutes and take a look at it then? I just need time to get the rest of this day out of my brain.
Yeah.
And then you respect that other person for saying that. Be like,
because
he
also told me,
letting me know.
Would tell me a time that we are going to talk about it. So I have no anxiety that he's going to avoid it.
Yeah.
I know that he's going to address it. Right. And then I walk away being like, okay, we're going to have this conversation, and I don't have to stress about it.
And again, these are just problem solving techniques I use for myself. Like, and it's not therapeutic advice to anyone else out there, but like, I know myself well enough at this point where I understand that I don't like it when I get defensive at people. I don't like it when I get angry with people. I don't like it when I have like really what I feel are negative emotions, but I will have them because I'm a human being.
Right.
But how I deal with them is what I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a difference of, oh, I'm going to take that time and just scream at you and I'm going to tell you that you screw me over and that the divorce was your fault. And so now you've put me in this situation where now I have to figure out how to get extra childcare, and I can't afford childcare, and you actually take money from me from child support every single month. So
it sounds like you're just actually airing out your
feelings. I'm letting you know these are things that I would have said. I'm being honest, right? I'm like trying to be like really transparent here.
Yeah.
These are things I would have said to you if that conversation kept going.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped, because that's not who I am. Like, these things that come out are mean, and they're not like, they're through this like really nasty filter that I think a lot of people actually have too. I don't think I'm alone.
No, I think you're right.
But like, because I stopped and I took time to breathe and understand that like see where you're coming from, I didn't have to hit you with that nasty filter because I was actually being considerate of you.
Right.
And I was actually being considerate of myself because I didn't want to feel like a jerk. And I'm being considerate of Holden and Lottie.
Right.
Because destroying the relationship between us because of us getting in fights about ours where now we might not talk to each other again because of harmful and hurtful things and abusive things and manipulative things that were said. It's not worth it.
No, not at all.
That's my tangent.
Yeah, I felt it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff coming forward.
All right, so we're going to.
Now that we got all that out, we can transition.
Everybody take a shot. No, I'm just
kidding. Why not? Right? It's just like
of alkaline water.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So do vodka. Go big or go home.
No, I think it's good. Like I hope it's okay that I went there. I want everyone to understand that like if you've got feelings like that and you ever, like I said in the first episode, if you ever want to get coffee with me and want to air stuff like that out so you don't unload the bag on someone else,
go for it. Well, I mean, if we're all airing things out, it's good that you didn't air all that out to me. So thank you, because I and if you hadn't
if I did air it out, I would have apologized.
I know. And he does that. I mean, we have a pretty good, but I did need, I'm glad that you had told me in the time that you were willing to talk about it, because I was already anxious because I started thinking about summer and being like, I don't feel like, this is being fair to me. And then I started having the feelings of, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I'm feeling like people aren't honoring my time. And I feel like, for the mental health of myself and the kids, like I should not be around them all summer long only, and so I had things I wanted to talk about too, but you listened to those, you took your time and came back and understood.
Well, and the thing is, I'm working a lot on myself during these times, and I know you are too, and I hope everybody out there is. I think we're always trying to work on ourselves, right? And someone who was really important to me once said, it's like apologies mean nothing if you don't change. And then,
right.
But what I came back and said with that was like, the change is an action, right? It's an action that somebody took to correct or fix a behavior that was harmful to somebody else, right? Sometimes not doing something is an action.
Right.
If somebody comes to you and they piss you off, you not blowing up on them and holding it inside to give yourself time to digest, that's an action. And they might not see that.
Right.
Unless I told you like I did right now, right? But like that's
it's okay.
an
I knew
actual
what was going on in your head.
But that's an actual
well
choice. So like sometimes when you're trying to fix and change a behavior, you don't always see the action because the change is actually being internalized. So you can try to figure it out.
Nate, I know when you I know when you ask for time. Yeah. If I don't give it to you, what would happen? Yeah. Like I know you well enough.
Sure. Okay, so we actually did bring some guests on today.
We sure did. What's your name, buddy?
Holden.
And what's your name?
Holden. Lottie.
Oh. So
all right,
we do have actual children.
We actually have kids.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
What is your favorite thing to do when you are at Dad's house?
Play video games. My mom won't let me play some games on my Nintendo, so.
Yeah, which ones?
Fortnite.
Yeah, are those dad games?
Yeah.
That's funny.
What's your favorite thing to do at Dad's house, Lottie?
Watch TV.
Do we also draw?
Yes.
Ooh.
We do drawing videos.
What's your favorite thing to do at Mom's house, Holden?
Hanging out with my cat and hanging out with chicks and.
Yeah, we hang out with chicks at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
What type of chicks, Holden?
All chicks.
Our chicks? Oh my gosh, my pets. He's describing my pets.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Did you name the chicks?
Yes.
I did name one.
What did you name your chick?
Venom.
Venom?
Because mine is fully black.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you name one too, Lottie?
Yeah.
What did you name yours?
Finny.
Is it Thinny with a TH or Thinny with a F?
Please don't correct me, Mom.
No, I'm asking Lottie.
Oh.
The name of the chicken.
What?
T.
It's a TH? It's Finny? I thought it was Finny this entire time with an F. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I'm now learning.
You need Holden to interpret Lottie.
But I thought it was Finny, but she was using an F for a TH. Yeah. So it's Finny? Like a skinny Finny?
Oh!
So, Lottie, what's your favorite thing to do at Mom's house?
Hang out with my baby kitty.
Your baby what?
Baby kitty.
Oh, you
and
love that.
The kitty.
What are you learning in school right now? What's your favorite subject?
Math.
Math? You like math?
Yes.
Do you need help with your homework sometimes?
Probably, yeah.
Do you need help with your math homework?
Sometimes no, but sometimes yes.
Yes.
I think the only thing I support you with is maybe reading the instructions. You do the calculus. Well, I know, but I might support you or help some of the words. But you do all the actual math part, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like math.
What do you love learning, Lottie?
Gym.
Gym? You love doing gym?
Is that a subject?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, also, this is important to me. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Yeah, that's kind of changed. It used to be
blue, but now it's red because I just like red more.
Okay, what about you, Lottie?
Pink.
Yeah, has that ever changed?
No.
No.
Jinx.
All right. Well, guys, do you love being at both Mom and Dad's house?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that fun?
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for coming on our podcast and saying hi to everybody. Would you guys be able to tell them how they can find us on social media?
You can follow us at Facebook.
At Divorced Not Divided.
At the...
I am in second.
At Divorced Not Divided.
At Divorce Not Divided.
Divorce Not Divided podcast.
Yeah, Divorce Not Divided podcast. And should everyone give us a good old thumbs up?
Yay!
What do you actually want them to do to our podcast?
Like and
medium.
Like and subscribe, please.
And a 5-star review would be great.
Yeah, I don't know if they can do 5-star reviews.
And make
on that,
sure it's a
we always say
medium
it.
thumbs up.
Okay, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go now. So
Yay.
thanks a lot, everybody. We love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.